right. Well, good morning, everyone. It's great to be back here again. My name is Luke Bencie. This is my third year here at the conference, and it's nice to see how it's grown every single year. So much so that the White House called and Donald Trump said, "Oh, I'm going to be out there as well at the same time." So, um, very pleased to be here. On this panel discussion is on security as a profit center, unlocking ROI through safety and security. And as Mr. Waleed had just mentioned, there's so many. We talk about the Giga projects and Vision 2030, but there is so much more. It's continuing to grow. I was looking this morning. Last year, 1.2 billion US dollars was spent on security here in the kingdom, and that's not cybersecurity. That's not safety. That's just pure physical security. And the average growth rate on that is going to be 10% every year up until the year 2034. So the opportunities are definitely here to make profit. But as we know, as was pointed out just a moment ago, is that security is it's a cost center. It's a non-revenue generating entity, and it's our job as security professionals to demonstrate why there really does need to be genuine concern by the C-suite to gain profit, to show that no, security can be a return on investment for you. And I don't know how many CSOs we have in the room with us today, chief security officers. I was funny. I was doing a search. Forbes came with their top 7 most important C-suite executives, and they call it the Chief's 7 C's. And obviously, you have the CEO and the COO and the CFO, at the top of it. But then it goes into obviously what we know as the cyber chiefs, as chief information technology officers, and all of that. And when I looked up CSO, I was expecting to see chief security officer, and Forbes had it as chief sustainability officer or chief sales officer. So as security CSOs, we need to do a better job of inserting ourselves and demonstrating why we need to show a return on investment within the organization. So with that, I want to jump right into our esteemed panelists here. We have some great questions for you, and we're going to open up to questions at the end as well. But I want to start off with Dr. Alghamdi. If we could start with you, please. There's a saying in our industry that security is always too expensive until there's an incident. And then we can't spend the money fast enough, but unfortunately, the time has already passed. So my first question to you, sir, is how can security professionals justify their request to the C-suite for larger security budgets to most effectively do their jobs?
Ask you a question. What is the first question the C-suite asks after an incident or an accident? Where is the security? Where is the safety? This is the first question they ask. But when you are trying to put your business plan for safety or security, they always try to make cut in your budget. So we always, as a professional, we approach this from technical point of view, from professional point of view, but we never think in the big picture, which is the business. So C-suite members usually, and CFO as well, as my friend here said, they always have appetite for business. So you need to integrate that further and try to make them interested about this. So how you can do that? By always focusing the benefit, the revenue, how this gonna help the business, the reputation of the company, and also by saying, for example, if we have this kind of security programs or this kind of manpower or this kind of system in our organization, this is going to revenue our benefits and are going to make a good reputation for us. And at the same time, it's going to improve our process so people can trust in us more. And as a good example of this, in the financial institutional worldwide, and here in Saudi Arabia, they invest too much in cybersecurity. And why? Because they like to keep their asset, customers, because they can invest in their business. And imagine if there is a break in cybersecurity in one of the bank, and then one day you lost all of your asset there. So here it is as a good example of how you can integrate this and how you can focus in that. The other idea, try also to show, because C-suite, they like to see metrics. They like to see benchmarking. They like to see revenue. So you can say, by doing this, this is the 50% added to our value. By doing this, we make reduction for 30% of penalties from registration and international laws and governmental laws. By doing this, we actually facilitate a new business for us, and we're going to have a new opportunities in the market. We dominate the markets. So this is the second strategy. The third strategy, try to give an example of leaders who integrate security or safety into their business and make it a leading to the business itself, not let's say controlling of the business. So now if you can show that the benefit of the security and the safety programs into your organization, it's actually going to benefit to your revenue in the end of the day, and it's going to give you a better understanding for the business, then they will take that concept. Now let's think out of the box. If we have an accident in a shipyard business, a governmental investigation will take place, and reputation worldwide will come to impact our business, and the trust of the customer will lost, and that will really affect the business. So we might have no business for a long period of time until we build that reputation again. We have very good examples around the world since 2010 until now, where accidents take place and several organizations, they've been impacted in their revenue because of that. The COVID-19 gave us a very good example of investment in business development by integrating security and safety in their system. So investing in security and safety, it's actually improving the revenue of the business and improving the business where resilience and continuous of business is going to last for longer period of time. And I think this is what China did during the COVID-19. It's the only country have a growth in their economy by around 1%. Usually they have 11 to 20%. But during that period of time, it's 1% the growth in their economy. However, other countries, they have loss with their growth. Why? Because they have the strategy of China 2025, where they think that in 2025, they should be the best product in the market, available everywhere with a good price for consumer and good quality. And that's make the supply chain available for everywhere. So in COVID-19, we realize that China is nearer to us than anywhere else. So we start ordering by online. So all of this stuff, it is actually provide the resilience of the business and the continuity of that business. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much, Doctor. I think it's very a good point that you talked about security needs to be more strategic. I think a lot of us come from a background of law enforcement or military or intelligence, and we get into that responder mode. We fall back on the tactical thinking of being a responder, when in the security world, we really need to be more strategic. Let me move down to Ms. Nouf at the end there. So many people are coming now to the kingdom. Let me ask you, exceptional customer service and genuine hospitality, they're definitely an important part of Vision 2030. But with this influx of tourists coming into Saudi Arabia and the GCC in general, how can security departments accommodate these visitors without appearing overbearing while still maintaining optimal security and protection?
Okay, thank you. So with Vision 2030, there is a high number of visitors is expected to visit Saudi Arabia and GCC in general. However, for the within Saudi Arabia, after the announcement of the vision, you can see how the regulations and including law enforcement entities have repositioned itself to accommodate this target in a way that they elevated security measures. At the same time, they ensured that the kingdom is ready to welcome all of these visitors by establishing new departments that is dedicated for tourism, security. And then it comes the aspect of the private sector or the organizations that are working into designing visitors' journeys within Saudi Arabia for tourism. Um, we all heard about the concept of security design, embedding security in the design, using technology, AI, and all of these strategies that the organizations are working toward to ensure that security is there. However, I believe that the main focus is the human element of all of these organizations, because even if implementing a technology needs a human, an engineer, to design or to implement this technology, and the human element need to be considered in order to have the best result for the visitors. Um, so, for example, the frontliners investing in training the frontline security staff in culture awareness and communication is something that security departments need to prioritize when they put a strategy, and it goes hand in hand with the designing security and the technology.
Excellent, thank you very much. Brett, I want to turn to you here. We talked about, again, security departments, non-revenue generating entities. Are there any quantitative metrics that security people can use to demonstrate an effective ROI?
Yeah, thanks, Luke. I mean, I think that's a good question, and one that probably resonates with most people in the room. We're always seeing us at just a cost center. We don't bring any value to the business. But I think we do security, and I think it's changing that perception. I think it's happening slowly. I think we do bring value, but we don't bring maybe the value that we typically see, you know, that ROI that you talk about like other departments. And I think the first issue we face is the language. You know, we're very siloed still. Unfortunately, we talk about that integrated approach, but we still use our very kind of special language. And the business doesn't recognize this, and we have to change the language. And I think if we can align more with enterprise risk teams, because they have the seat to the board, and that's what people respond to. People hear about, you know, loss of operations, reputational damages, you know, things like this. If we can change that language, that's the first step. The second thing is a cost of incidents. So as you said, you know, we always spend too much money on security until we don't. So when there's an incident, suddenly we need to spend more money on security. But we can somehow measure what that cost is of an incident, whether it's downtime, operational downtime, then show what that cost is. And then we can easily demonstrate, well, the cost of security, the budget, you know, if we don't have any incidents, then the cost is nothing compared to that downtime we have as a business. But then that leads to an interesting question. If there's no incidents, is that because of good security, or is that just good luck? And this is always a common question. And this is where we need that risk-based approach. We can demonstrate we've done the proper risk assessment, we're updating this every year, and we have mitigations in place that clearly demonstrate we can reduce the likelihood of these incidents. Then we can start demonstrating that cost, and then we turn from a cost center to almost a business enabler, because we're keeping the business running when there's no incidents. And then there's things like reputational value. How can you put a measure on that? And I think this is where security can bring value. You know, investors, confidence, compliance, you know, brand reputation, all this can be tied to security. If we have good security, we have confidence in the market, and that's a value that other departments can't bring. And lastly, as well, we're talking about how can security be that strategic enabler? A lot of companies now are building their in-house intelligence capability. This is for predictive analytics, and also you have to understand the context you operate. And imagine if, you know, the business wants to make a decision and then security have a seat at that table because you're seen as a business enabler, because when they're making these strategic decisions, they understand security knows what's happening, they understand the context, and then they value your input for that business decision. So I think slowly we can change the perception. We can be seen as a valuable, not your typical ROI, but I think we can really bring that strategic benefit to the business, and slowly.
That's a great point. You mentioned something in there that a lot of people skip over in security, and that's a reputational damage. In the United States right now, with our Fortune 500, even our Fortune 1000 companies, 1 out of every 4 FBI case in the United States right now has to do with intellectual property theft. And those are only the cases that are reported. So if you imagine you're a publicly traded company and you have somebody steals your intellectual property, or as Mr. Waleed pointed out, one of your new products or services gets out on social media, you have to answer to the shareholders. You're going to have a drop in your stock price. So a lot of times we see security departments that do not report their intellectual property theft because it would be damaging to the financial stocks of the company. But that being said, still 1 out of every 4 cases of the FBI is an IP theft case. So I love the point that you made also about having in-house intelligence, whether that be an IT capability or human, which brings me to the next point. I'm going to open this question up for the group here. We all know in this room that the weakest link in security is always the human factor. It is that janitor that takes a picture of the jet or whatever and gets it out on social media. So my question to all of you, and anyone feel free to jump in on this, would you rather have in the security department more manpower, or would you rather have more technology? Please.
Yeah, I think they goes hand in hand, both of them together. Now, human have 5 senses, right? So a human with a very strong 5 senses, he can provide a very good observation, correct? Now, there is a 6th sense, which is you anticipating to situation and what you can feel is going to happen next. And this is what can make a good security or good safety. In my approach, I would say there is a 7th one, which is the AI available in this one. Why? Because doing or taking this concept, it's actually providing the data and the analysis, which is you need to see from an algorithm approach. However, the human factor is going to give you the added value by assessing the situation and the result of whatever the system gives to you. Now, having, for example, a drone in a heavy traffic road like King Fahd Street here in Riyadh can give me a solution to go with another road where I can reach my destination without hassle, without being late. But if I don't have that, as a human, I have to try several options. Now, decision making, it is a human ability where you can make a very good decision. And you can rely in some experience or in some, let's say, aspect you can see in front of you. AI can give you a perception. It's not always as a fact, but it will give you according to the data you put there. If you put a good data, it will give you a good perception. If you give a weak data, then you will have a weak perception. So both of them, I think in my idea that they will go hand in hand and they will improve with time. But the human factor is very important because it's make the final judgment, which is necessary for you to raise a case against a situation or neglect a situation. Now, back to whatever my 2 colleagues talk about and in their topics, here is a very good approach. Saudi Arabia have a very long history and it's a very success story. In the security, we have in Hajj and in Umrah, and we welcome people from all around the world with different culture, with different background, with different languages. And we still manage those 4 million people in a few days in a very small town successfully, alhamdulillah. And I'm thankful to God and to the Saudi government for putting all of their effort in this. Now, we moved this from Mecca and Medina to Riyadh and to other part of Saudi Arabia with the support of my colleague here and their approach. That's a successful story. And it's let's say, it is a learning for others to learn from us here and to get the perception of that. Integrating all of that in the revenue of business, and if disturbance of business, if there's a disturbance, that will really affect your revenue, your reputation, and the trust of customers. Now, how you can maintain this? By implementing a good security, by implementing a good safety systems with human factor in it, and AI or intelligent. So by doing that, you will actually maintain your business. Your business, even if it will have some downs, it will not go to zero. It will be to 40 or to 60%. Then you will recover immediately and you will be there. You will actually change your office from controlling for threats to improving for business by implementing that. You are looking for opportunities. You are looking for downtime and you are trying to shorten that. You are looking for resilience. You are looking for recovery. If a ship have a multifunction in the middle of the sea, how long until you save? How long until you recover? How long until you deliver? All of that is taken in consideration by the two concepts together, human factor and AI.
Great, thank you. And last question here, and I'll leave this for Nouf or for Brett. Training. A recent survey in the United States asked CSOs, what is one thing that you would want more than anything else for your security departments? And they said more training. What type of training would you see as valuable moving forward here in the kingdom? What would you like to see as security training?
First, I second Dr. Ahmed on the approach that he mentioned, that human and technology need to be balanced in security departments. And this will create a new demand of skill set for security departments, which leads to the focus areas of training, which something that will support the technology needed. Security teams will need to have more training in emerging technology, how to first implement, how to support these technologies, and then how to use and utilize efficiently these technologies. And the second part, which is my first answer, was the cultural awareness is very important, that the security department focus on this aspect of training.
Great point.
Yeah.
Cultural awareness. Brett, training?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So I completely agree with the pace of technology. Everyone has to keep up with technology to stay current and know how we can enable it. But actually, some current research I was doing on a different subject related to security is actually a lot of the skills we forget about that I think are becoming more crucial with technology. So, communication skills, presentation skills. We just talk about presenting our message, communicating our message to the board. How can we communicate this? We have a lot of information into a very small time frame. How we communicate at different levels, as you said, cultural awareness, that's very important. Critical thinking, critical analysis. If we get too relying on ChatGPT, as mentioned earlier, we lose that simple ability to take that information and just verify it before we agree with what technology is telling us. So I think these core skills have to be fundamental in any security training going forward.
Great point. We're becoming a little over-reliant on ChatGPT. Yes, sir, Dr. Alghamdi.
I'd like to add something. Thank you very much for all of your points. It's really good and very helpful. Beside the security and safety training, which is the traditional one we are doing, nowadays, security and safety, it is not only security and safety, it's digitalization, it is cybersecurity, it is risk management. So I think these three topics, it's very important to learn and to explore further and integrate it to security and safety. And one major thing, it's crisis management, because always crisis management is very important, how to recover and start working again for the business. And I will always say business resilience, business continuity, because here, where is the factor? Some company cannot recover and they lost because they don't have the crisis management, the right system for them. They don't have the leadership to lead from that kind of crisis to move it again to operational. So leadership training is very important. Communication, how to communicate and how to deliver the concept of being in this situation, which is the crisis, to the operational mode and recover and start gaining the revenue again. I just added these three because I think it's very important. Thank you very much.
Excellent point.